Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sunshine Coast. Things a bit loud right now. Many of you have heard the story of the trash company owner who founded a minor league hockey team and put his 17-year-old son in charge. AJ Galante served as the general manager and president of the Danbury Trashers. I'm joined by one of the players. Let's introduce you to the fans, shall we? How's it going?
Good. How are you? Thanks a lot for having me on, and it's always fun to talk Trashers. So.
Now, what number were you when you played, and what was the name on your back of your jersey?
Yeah, I always went with 42. I was a big Bob Probert fan growing up, so I just flipped those backwards from 24 to 42, and obviously my last name is Wingfield.
There you go. Brad Wingfield joining me up here. AJ Galante was very surprised to hear that his father had purchased a hockey team. Did his vision of the team surprise you?
AJ's vision, no, not at all. I think, at that time, the guy was, he's a rough player when he played the game. He was big into football and absolutely huge into WWE wrestling. So I don't think it was any surprise at all what was about to come with the product on the ice with the Trashers.
It was all fun and games until the season began in September of 2004. Talk to me about opening night.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. The atmosphere was electric. These guys really had a name in Danbury, and Danbury being a blue-collar town is pretty middle class and pretty rough and tumble, and there was, make no qualms about it, we all knew, or I knew especially, that it was going to be a pretty physical night come drop of the puck.
What was it like being injured during your first season? I know not the best memories for you, but what was that like? Yeah,
not good, right? So I've said this before, anytime you're injured, it's a lot better when the team's doing well on the ice, and it was that year. So that makes things a little bit easier. But you want to be out there as a player contributing, doing your part with success, team success. And so it's hard to watch. But I'll tell you what, sitting back and having to watch that, it was very entertaining to watch what AJ and Jimmy Galante were putting on the ice and how the Trashers performed every night.
It was a leg injury, right?
It was, yeah. Unfortunately, a broken tib, a fib, and a spiral fracture of the ankle. Again, very unfortunate, but this is not the first time I had this injury. I broke my other leg like that 7 years prior in the Western Professional Hockey League down in Louisiana. So I knew the extent of the injury and how bad it was, and it was going to be a long road. So,
well, AJ still refers to you as one of the toughest guys that he knows.
Yeah.
You still talk with him?
Sorry?
You still talk with him?
I still talk to AJ, and that's very humbling for AJ to say that. You know, he's big into the boxing and the MMA circle and on the Eastern Seaboard, and for him to say that, it makes me pretty proud. So definitely I bled for that team, and I broke for that team, and I'm proud of that fact.
You stayed with AJ and his family after the first season when you were recovering. What was his family like?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if any of you guys watched the Sopranos series, but very much like that. They had the son AJ. They had a daughter like Meadow, but it was Candace. Roseanne, my mom, was just awesome, as was Jimmy. You know, they really made you feel like a family there, and a little bit scary. You don't want to make Jimmy mad ever, but they took me right in, and it was awesome. It was awesome to get to stay there with them.
Brad Wingfield, former player on the Trashers, joining me right now. Now, I listened to the Spittin' Chiclets episode, and AJ was talking about how the NHL was trying to file a lawsuit against them. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. We heard about it because of the Atlanta Thrashers, and they thought the Trashers were too close of a name. And I think at one point, actually, AJ wanted to play the Atlanta Thrashers with the Danbury Trashers for the name rights. That never came to fruition, but very interesting if they would have got that going on. I'm pretty sure the Atlanta Thrashers would have got a little banged up.
For sure. Nothing you want to see from an NHL team.
No.
Let's just go back to your injury for a second. Why were you so determined to get back onto the ice?
Just the type of guy I am. To me, that was my NHL. I've been to NHL camps prior to going to Danbury, but that was the dream for me. The way they treated us, the way they paid us there, it was somewhere where I thought I could see myself living for the rest of my life. When people treat you that well, you want to do everything in your power to get back to doing what you do for them.
11:20 to go before we kick off period number 2. What were your thoughts on the documentary that came out on Netflix? I know you were a big role in that.
Yeah, you know what? You don't know. I'm a little nervous when about the release. You don't know what part you play in it or what's said or being used. So pretty surprising when it came out that I was that big of a part of that piece of that puzzle. It makes me proud. I thought they did a great job on that documentary. Let's just hope one day it translates to a Hollywood movie is what they're looking at next. And there hasn't been a good hockey movie in a long time. And if you like true crime, if you like violence, or you like sports, I think it'd be a pretty good Hollywood blockbuster.
Now, once that documentary came out, you had a lot of showtime on the air, on TV, everywhere. What was one of your most memorable things? Was it the Spin and Chiclets podcast?
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. That's pretty big in the hockey circle, and that one probably sticks out the most in my mind. Just to go banter back and forth with Whit and Biz, and just real hockey guys. I'm real comfortable talking to those guys, and I think the same goes for them. So probably that's one of the better ones and one of my favorite ones.
Tommy T-Bone Papacello.
Yeah. Wow, eh?
Let's talk about him.
I can't tell my story about the Trashers without involving this guy in it. He's the reason I ended up with the Trashers in Danbury, and without T-Bone, I wouldn't be a part of that history there. So just a wild man, and one of the real true characters in pro hockey, or was.
He's a minor hockey coach. Is it still that he still gets into it with some of his 11-year-olds?
Well, I never even knew that he could skate till I saw the documentary, but he's actually out there hitting kids on the boards. You guys, if you watch the doc, you'll see what he did. I couldn't believe my eyes when I watched that. So he's that type of guy. He's one wild one, and you know what, though? He's a good friend of mine and a great guy, and I got to thank him every chance I get. He's the guy that got me there.
AJ Galante said that he never saw him sharpen a skate in his life and that he would spend a lot of time in opposing locker rooms. What was he really like as an equipment manager?
He was really like that, messing with the other team. It was so prevalent that we would just be like, brush it off and be like, oh, T-Bone's up to his old tricks. Wouldn't want to be the other team. And, we weren't really privy to all the stuff he was doing to the other teams until the documentary came out. Like, we knew he was doing stuff, but we had no idea it was to that extent. So, again, just a wild man and a real true character in the game.
Do you feel that the documentary did a good job of explaining who the Trashers were?
I think so. I was surprised, actually. They did a great job, and that's credit to the directors, and it was very surprising. You don't know what you're going to get before it comes out, and so pretty proud of how they did it and how it turned out, and just a real good story, a true story, and one that I'm glad they had the chance to tell.
Now, I heard that documentary was supposed to come out a few years before it was actually released due to COVID, and you mentioned how nervous you were. Did that nerves last those few years? Or?
No, I don't know if it's the amount of hits to the head I've had or whatever, but I got a pretty short memory sometimes. I truly almost forgot because I flew out there to Danbury, New York in, I believe it was August 2019. And they kept saying, it's going to come out next week, to the point where I just sort of let it go and figured it'll come out if it comes out.
The Trashers tried adding George Larocque to the team during the 2004 lockout. Were you involved in those discussions?
No, not at all. So we had another ex-NHLer from the West Coast here, in Stephen Pete. I was part of him when my leg broke, and I being friends with Stephen Pete, I got him out there. But a lot of these guys, I don't know how they knew so many guys or were able to get in contact with these guys, but they were very good at what they did in recruiting. And I guess it helps when you got duffel bags full of cash.
Brad Wingfield joining me from the Danbury Trashers. Dan, how much do you wish that team was still existent? Existed?
Yeah, I mean, through and through more than any other team. They're legendary. I'm just real glad I got to be there for the full 2 years that they were in existence. And honestly, at the time you're there, you think this is going to go on forever. And sad, but all good things come to an end. And I think now, the quick 2 years, it just sets them more in legendary lore.
From pulling fire alarms to stealing the opposing goaltender's pads, what other crazy stuff were you guys up to?
Yeah, well, I don't know about us, but it was T-Bone. Probably AJ in there with them. They're putting fish in the heating vents, turning off the hot water, welding the visiting bench doors closed, all sorts of stuff. The list just goes on. And all, like I said, we weren't really privy. We knew stuff was going on, but we didn't know to what extent. And, man, it was already a tough place to come into Danbury and play against us. With those guys messing around like that, it was, real tough on the opposing teams to come in there.
We've spoken a lot about AJ. Are you guys still close?
Yeah, you bet. I usually talk to AJ every couple of weeks or at least once a month. I talk to Jimmy Galante. I stay in touch with John Morasti, Ruben Ender. So quite a few of those guys we stay in touch and we message back and forth, and pretty cool stuff.
Your general manager is a teenager, and both teams playing this weekend are teenage players. What have you thought about the product on the ice this weekend?
Man, you know what? It's a lot better than I thought. So that makes me happy to see what, you're not sure. You think Junior B, ho and hum, but man, it's completely changed my mind this season, watching the VI and now the PJ. And these guys can play, and the product from when I played in the league as a 16-year-old, it's come such a long way, and the talent is it's truly amazing. So a real nice surprise.
I just touch on how different the game has been from when you were playing to what it is now.
Yeah, you know what? It's just evolved so much. Like, I don't know how I could compare it, but it seems like even in my early pro days that this level in junior hockey in Canada is starting to creep towards that level back then.
How did the community take the news, the Sunshine Coast community, when they found out that they'd be hosting this?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we can look to our left and we can look to our right. And, we only put 600 tickets up for sale, and it's sold out. I think we could have put another 600 in here. This place supports their teams, supports our minor hockey on Sundays. All our rep teams play. There'll be up to 300, 400 people watching the U18 rep teams. So it makes no doubt in my mind that these guys can support this, and it shows here tonight and last night that they would love to get a team here.
Brad Wingfield joining me. Brad, what's been your role in all of this?
Well, not much of a role. I'm just an ambassador for the game. I'm proud to say I was I was the one that brought in Rick Hopper from Powell River to spearhead this and put him in touch with another guy that was spearheading all this, in Stu Frizzell. And if those two guys can't bring a junior team here, then I'm very safe to say nobody in the world can, because these guys are lights out at what they do in preparation and their research, their knowledge, and just awesome guys. And my faith is in them that they can get this done.
Putting on a showcase like this, never easy. What would you say has been the most difficult thing about all of this?
Well, for me, my job wasn't hard. You'd actually have to ask the people that are hitting the pavement and doing all the work, because to me it looks like it's going off flawlessly and very easily, but that's the perspective of the public, and that's what we want them to think. So the people behind the scenes we can see around here wearing the green jerseys, but again, I can mention Brenda Rowe, I can mention Rick Hopper, Stu Frizzell, these guys, they put it together as outstanding team to help bring this here, and so far so good. I think you'd agree with that.
For sure. And lastly, just your final impressions on the weekend.
Yeah, I've still got 2 periods to go, but my impressions are I have high expectations. I'm definitely very hopeful and would be very proud if we're able to get a franchise here, and I know it would be like this every game, every home game. So that's we're just hoping for the best.
My final question, I told you I was going to ask you this. I've got to ask you it. Section 102, very, very popular in that documentary. It means a lot to the Trashers. If the Sunshine Coast get a team here, are you going to make sure that there's a Section 102?
Well, you know what? It's not even on me. I would love to replicate or duplicate or whatever you want to call Section 102. But my good friend from the Junior Hockey Society, Stu Frizzell's already all over that, and they're going to put up an honorary Section 102. And the most famous fans in all of hockey, and I had the great opportunity to play against Section 102 when they were in New Haven, and then I had the awesome time of having them as my home fans in Danbury. So shout out always to Section 102, the best fans in all of hockey.
Brad Wingfield, my guest during the first intermission from the Danbury Trashers. Thank you very much for joining me. It means
John,
a lot.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it, my man.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take a break. We'll be back with the call for period number 2.